What is up, YouTube? It's been a minute since I've done a video. I wanted to do a review of the titanium welder since I've used it pretty hard. For the people who are following the Mustang, the welder did all the floors in the Mustang, a couple patches, subframe connectors, exhaust, etc., etc. Those are the new seats sitting over there, waiting for the seat brackets to come, but I can do another video on that. So back to the titanium welder. It has been a phenomenal welder for a welder from Harbor Freight. I've had a bit of novice experience with a Miller before. I have to say that I'm super impressed with this. But there are a few things that I do not really care for on this. If you buy this from Harbor Freight, you will get the welder, not the cart. I got the cart also from Harbor Freight. You get a regulator with it. I will say that this regulator is complete garbage. I do plan on picking me up another one at some point in time. So as you're welding and as your gas, because I went through 2 bottles. This is a third one, doing all the welding on this car. As your gas gets lower, because this will show you, how many pounds you have in your bottle and how many liters per minute you're flowing. Yeah, as your gas gets lower, your liters per minute will keep jumping up, and before you know it, if you don't pay attention to it, you're flowing a lot more gas than what you need, and it ends up wasting a lot of gas. So you can use this, it works, it doesn't leak. I mean, I Tefloned everything, but if you pay attention to it and you dial it back a little bit, you can pretty much, keep it where it needs to be. But my opinion, it's a cheap regulator. I would get another regulator. Other than that, this thing has been really good. I said in my other video I didn't really care for the ground cable on it. It hasn't really given me too much problems, but the welder itself has performed wonderful. And I've welded stainless with this as well. Currently I do have a little bit of stainless wire in there. That's what I did the exhaust in this in. So for the most part, it is a very friendly, user-friendly welder. I have my other welding wire, 030 025. I've learned quite a lot in doing this. The 025 wire is nice, but the 030 wire welds so much better. Unless you're doing like strictly sheet metal, I'd run the 030 wire. This is very, very easy. So, I mean, literally to change the wire out, you take this nut out, you loosen this up, this will pop up, and then you can loosen this here up, and that's how you change for whatever wire you are running. And then this is how you set your tension for it. You get a piece of wood, get the wire to come out. It should bend the wire and not slip on here. That's usually the rule of thumb with the tension. But yeah, I've welded with this. It never, if you tend to do too long of a weld, it'll go in an overheating cycle. It'll like get too hot, it'll kick it off, it'll let it cool off. That never happened. It always has started up. It's never given me a problem. I think it welds wonderful for compared to spending like $2,000 for a top of line welder. These digital gauges are wonderful to dial it in right. This gauge, for the love of me, I cannot remember exactly what it's called. Basically controls the puddle. If you want more of a puddle, you turn this up. I'm really angry because I can't think of the name of it right now. You can Google it. But this basically controls your welder, your puddle. If you turn it up higher, you tend to puddle a little bit more. It's not that much noticeable. There's other videos out there that explains the setting of the welder so much better than I can. Trying to think here. The gun itself is not a bad thing. It hasn't given me any problems. I got some, more tips, contact tips for it, and the gas tip for it. The only time I've had any issues with the tips is because of my own stupidity. But yeah, I mean, this Harbor Freight welder is surpassed my expectations. Um, Everything you see here is not, like I said, did not come with a kit. Like I got this is a MIG torch stand. If you're welding, you just hook your torch in there and continue going on about your day. I bought that separately. Like I said, I bought the cart separately. Looks like some of my wire came out. But yeah, all in all, this thing has been really good. The only thing I don't care for is this is a dryer plug. So if this is a 220, you can also plug it into 220 as well. But you need an adapter because this is a plug for a dryer. So you need, if you are going to get this and you're not going to hook it up to a regular outlet, you would need to get a special connection for it. So that is the only thing I didn't care about it. I wish it would have sent you something like an adapter so you can run 220, because I do have 220 in my garage. That was a little disappointing, but I pretty much welded 120 the whole entire time, and it was great. It, like I said, didn't bog me down or anything like this. I got these little things, you clip these on the wire here, and essentially it lubricates the wire. There's another one I have, it comes in a red pack. It also cleans the wire. It just allows your wire to not, there's a my God, my brain is off. There's a little sleeve in here that the wire runs in for your gun. If you have a cleaner wire and a lubricated wire, it'll make that sleeve in there last so much longer. So I got that. These, for what it's telling you, what you're welding, the gauge of metal you're welding and everything, it's close, but it's not close. You're gonna have to kind of dial it in depending what you're welding. But this thing has surpassed my expectations. I mean, I welded floor pans into this, which is, really thin gauge steel, but the subframe connectors are a thicker gauge steel, and I swear I welded with the 030 wire, and it laid down a really good weld. You could control it so you wouldn't blast holes into your floor pan, so that was really good. So all in all, this is for your value, is a great welder. Now this is a 170. They do have a cheaper one there. I can't remember what it is. Is it the 140? I think it's a titanium 140. My buddy has that. He loves it as well. I got this just because of the 220 application, and if I was already going to spend that money, I might as well just spend a little bit more money and get this. I do have a 60 cubic foot bottle in there. Unless you're going to be welding a lot, and I mean like every day or like once a week or a couple times a month, and even for a couple times a month, I mean, 60 cubic foot bottle does a lot. Now, I did do a lot of welding on this. If you go to Air Gas for your bottle exchange, I think anything over 120 cubic feet, you need to rent. I don't think they sell it to you. So I have a 60 cubic foot bottle, and then over here is like my spare 20 cubic foot bottle. That way, if I'm in the middle of a welding project, I run out, I have a spare bottle, so I don't need to stop and go to Air Gas. I will say something. So stainless steel on this, they tell you need to run a different gas on it. Now, I don't weld stainless that much. It just so happened the exhaust for the Mustang was stainless. They have, it's called trifold gas. So it has your argon, your CO2, and it has helium in it. That's why it's called trifold, because it has 3 gases. They recommend that for welding stainless. So I wrestled around with, should I go and get another bottle, because I'm only going to weld stainless probably this one time, because it's only for my stainless steel exhaust. So what I ended up doing is I did not do that. I stayed with the 75-25 argon CO2 mix, and it honestly welded fine. It was, if you want really pretty welds and not so much splatter, research I did, you want to get the trifold, because the argon and the CO2 tends to splatter a little bit more, but it's exhaust. You're never going to see it underneath the car. If you do, I'm having a terrible day because I'm upside down on the roof. So there's that. Other than that, when I will tell you a couple things that I personally do outside of putting the lubrication things on the wire. When I'm welding for a little bit, the fan kicks on all the time. So when you flip this on, on button's back here. You know what I mean? You want to make sure you're on 120 or 240. You know, I'm on 120. You'll flip it on, it'll go through its checklist. Everything will light up. The fan will kick on, it'll kick off, and then it'll kick on. Anytime you hit the trigger on the torch end, the work light will come on. If you have any problems, the alarm will sound. That's usually if you're overheating. It does break down. I said in my other video on how, your duty cycles, if you're welding like a really long strip, you probably should give it a break. When I was welding my subframe connectors, because there was a good amount of welding, it was thicker steel, I had it turned up a little bit more. When I got done welding, I didn't just shut it off. I let it run for a little bit. I let the fan cool it down, and I clicked it off. I mean, I probably could, I've gotten away with turning it off right away, but I mean, what's it matter? It's better to be safer than sorry. I'd rather have the fan cool it down, make sure everything was good, and so on and so forth. If you're running flux, now I run gas, you can run flux through these. This is not hard to set up. These are all quick connects. You have to change your polarity when you're running flux, but it is super, super easy. So I do like the ease in which that you can switch, the ease in which like I said, I'm a novice welder. I think I did a great job for being a novice welder. I wanted to get this because you could dial it in a lot better. A lot of the cheaper, I was looking at Lincolns, they sell them at Home Depot. They had like A, B, C, and D for your amps, which is essentially your heat, and your wire speed was numbers like it is on here. But I didn't really like the A, B, C, and D because I felt like you couldn't fine tune it. I'm sure there's some professional welder that'll tell me otherwise, and he's probably correct. But for me, being a novice welder, not a professional welder, a do-it-yourself guy, I wanted something that I could dial in. So, I mean, this will come up and it'll say like 16.2 or whatever you want, or 21.1. So you can really dial this in quite a lot. The other feature I have never used on this is if you switch this from 2T to 4T, it's your trigger pull. So when I pull the trigger on 2T, it'll start welding. When I let the trigger out, it'll stop welding. When you have 4T, I'm assuming if you're welding like an obnoxious piece of steel, like a really long weld, you click it to 4T, you click the trigger once, depress it, click it again, it'll start welding. And you can depress the trigger and it'll keep welding. And then you got to pull the trigger, depress the trigger again, it'll shut off. That's the difference between 4T because you're pulling the trigger 4 times versus 2 times. So I have personally never used that since I had it. I didn't even try to use it. Like I said, here are the red ones, the Lubrimatic. This cleans the wire. The black ones you see in the picture oils the wire. I do that because it saves the lining in here, like I said. Changing the tips out. I've read other videos where it's a pain in the butt. I mean, that's all it is. You just pull it off. Now, I have not had any problems with these tips coming off while I'm welding or anything like that. To me, they're really easy to use. I could imagine if you're welding a lot and pulling it on and off, that there's like 2 little O-rings in there, or like rubber gaskets, that kind of holds that into place. I feel like if you used it a lot and was changing the gas tips out, or whatever the technical term is of that, it would probably wear out a lot faster. So I do know that some people, that from the videos I've watched, they actually put like a threaded one so you can thread them on. I'm assuming that's probably better if you're going to be welding a lot. So for the most part, it was I'm very pleased with this welder. I did end up, that jacket over there is a welding jacket. I did a lot of welding underneath the car. If you're going to be underneath the car, I would definitely suggest getting a welding jacket. Prevents you from, burning holes in your shirt like I did. But, for bang for your buck, I know a lot of things, people write bad reviews on Harbor Freight stuff. I've had this for a few months. I've used it pretty hard in the first few months. I probably won't use it as hard now because most of the welding's done. When I go to fully restore this and do some of the body work, I have to weld in some sheet metal, so I will be using it harder again. But I think I paid, I think this was $580 a few months ago. It might be more now. I got the 1-year protection plan on it. So it was like a little over 600. I think the cart was close to 100. The bottle was 180. The helmet was 100. So for probably with the clamps, the MIG torch stand, the wire, the gas, everything like that, I'm probably a little over 1,000. So for this whole setup for a little over 1,000 versus other welders, I think it's phenomenal. And for all the crap that some Harbor Freight gets, I've almost everything I have here is Harbor Freight. I made another video on it. That McGraw air compressor, that got a lot of bad reviews. That's an oilless compressor. You can't, just run it nonstop. It will blow up. And I think sometimes people just tend to run it nonstop. There's a thing on the side that tells you, hey, you can use this tool, this tool, this tool. And then there's another list with another thing down it. I can't really see it because the box is in the way. You can kind of see it there. The yellow you see right there is intermediate. That means you can use it intermediately. You can't just use it the whole entire time and blow the air compressor up. But, all in all, I've been pretty impressed with some of the Harbor Freight stuff I got. But the welder, for my personal experience, if you're a do-it-yourself guy, if you ain't doing it as a business, as a career, and you're just got like little do-it-yourself projects you're gonna do 4 times a year, maybe a really big one, this is a very good welder. It welded great. I drove the hell out of this car since I've had it. None of the welds fell off, nothing broke. And it's user friendly for someone that does not know welding. The manual breaks everything down for you. Like I said, there's this whole thing that tells you duty cycles and gauges of steel and what to have your gas set to, your wire speed and all that. So your voltage and inductance. That's what this one is. It's inductance. I believe it's kind of like when your arc, something about your arc distance between the tip, the torch tip, and the metal, and that controls like how much your pedal. If you want a more liquidy pedal, you turn the inductance up. If you don't want as liquidy of a pedal, you turn your inductance down. I played with it a little bit when I was doing the floor pans because I did you drill the holes and you fill that hole up kind of like a spot weld. So obviously I wanted a little bit more of a puddle. I didn't really notice a difference, but so it'll really tell you what you need. It's a good baseline to start with, and then you can fine tune it from there. So that's my thoughts on the MIG welder, the titanium 170 after having it for a few months now. I'm very pleased. Did not give me any problems. Nothing did not work. Everything worked on it. Feeding the wire through it is pretty simple. I started a pretty good amount. So I'll feed it through here, through there, and then through the lining a good amount, and then I'll stretch it all the way out and I'll lay on the trigger and it'll run through just fine. So, all in all, for what I paid for it and the quality of it, I don't regret this at all. So if you're a hobbyist, I would 100% say get a titanium MIG welder from Harbor Freight. If you're going to do it as a profession, I don't know, I still think it would do good. But if you used it every day hard, I can't tell you that because that's not what I bought this for and that's not what I use it for. Like I said, I just do a do-it-yourself thing. When I need it, I have it. I got to do some rocker panels for my cousin, and I got to do some other body work for someone else. So I will use it off and on throughout the year, but I've not had an issue with it. I'm more than pleased with it. So I hope this video you like this video. It helps you out. I saw my other titanium video. Got a bunch of views on it. I think I'll probably do a year review on it and just keep everyone up to date. If anything failed, if I replaced anything, like I said, I will definitely be replacing that regulator. That thing is a piece of crap. So if you do get one, I would just go ahead and upgrade to a better regulator, because it will eat your gas if you do not pay attention to it. And then it's a pain in the butt, depending how you're welding and where you're welding at. You know, to climb out from under a car or inside a car to then check the regulator, it's a pain in the butt. Just, in my opinion, spend the extra money and get a better regulator. But all in all, very pleased with it. I hope this video helps. Till next time.